death, out of business. And if you're stressed, it's gonna take a toll on your health, and that's gonna increase your ability to die. It's gonna accelerate your advancement towards the grave. So we need everyone to stay calm during the COVID-19. So we've invited the good psychologist from India to come and explain to us how to stay calm. Before we rock into this episode of Dead Nation, I want to thank Thrivous. Thrivous, you know the deal, $5 all the way up to $160. The more times you share this, the more free Thrivous you're going to get. Also, I want to thank David Kelly over there at I Am Transhuman. Fantastic, innovative enterprise over there. New posts coming out all the time. Now, COVID-19, it sweeps the world. It's the coronavirus that's sweeping across the world. And, it's stressing people out. The cases go up, death rate goes up. A lot of people worried about their families and friends and their elderly relatives, and a variety of other people too now, it seems. But in these stressful times, who better turn to than a great man from India? Hello, sir. How are you?
I am fine, Steel. How are you? Hope you're safe.
I am safe. I am fine. I'm growing a beard because it's stressful times. Lots to think about. And I guess that's why I'm looking a bit shambles. But, this is going to be a great episode because, we're going to talk about mental health and how to help people get through this crisis. There's lots of different things to think about in this crisis. People are worried about their families, their friends, the global community. People are worried about the economy. People are worried about, a lot of events have been stopped. People's wedding plans and their everything. It's all been stopped. But you're here to tell us how to cope with some of these issues. Where would you like to begin? Firstly, just quickly remind people who you are. You're the world's most influential psychologist.
That's the line you remember, I think, from the last interview also. And hello, everybody. And I'm very thankful to Steel and that nation to get a different dimension to coronavirus, and how is it affecting the psyche of an individual, community, and economy and tourism. Everything is getting affected. So I am Professor Nabhit Kapur from India. I am a psychologist and the founder president of Peaceful Mind Foundation, working for mental health awareness throughout the globe. Steel has touched the topic of COVID-19, and in this episode of That Nation, we will be speaking that how it is going to affect and how you can cope with this major stressful situation which is happening around the globe. Yeah, Steel.
Yeah, cool. So, so to open up, during the time of COVID-19, it's essential that we hear the instruction of health workers and governmental healthcare leaders. Do you want to expand more on that?
Yeah, we can touch a little bit on that. Government is doing up their part, and government is definitely doing. I think each and every country's government is doing something or the other, but the entire onus relies on an individual because you have to be protected. You have to protect yourself.
Yeah,
and that is important.
And such things these are new things that we haven't really experienced in life, such as respecting the mandate of self-isolation. We recognize, however, that during the time of self-isolation, anxiety, fear, and stress might come upon us. Do you want to expand more on this? So a lot of people are the government is mandating self-isolation, and, Modi has activated SARC, the SARC nations over there in India, which was his idea,
Yeah.
and finally he can put it to use, which is good, because this is sort of the thing you need at this time. But individual governments around the world are doing their own things. But in self-isolation, a lot of people are going into self-isolation. Do you want to expand on this?
Yes. So what happens in self-isolation? Basically, we need to understand first that obviously the panic is being created, and more than the panic which is actual, there are a lot of myths around COVID-19 which is happening. Obviously, even we are new to this kind of a thing, and we are hearing it for the first time, just like we heard swine flu or Ebola for the first time. So we need to get inside it, what is happening. But definitely, we need to take the precautions which are being mandated: washing hands and keeping 6 feet of distance and self-isolating if you see symptoms, etc., etc. So what happens in the self-isolation? A person generally uh, gets into that fearful mode. That
Mm.
what next, and am I going to survive or not? So that uncertainty which is surrounding the humankind right now, because nobody is certain what is going to happen tomorrow. Every 1 hour you change the channel and you see the number of cases are being increased, right? And nothing is getting depleted. So obviously that fear, that panic is there, and self isolation definitely creates a lot of panic with the human psyche, because a person is being isolated from the social world. So there is no communication channel, no meeting, no talking. I mean, nothing is there. You're just sitting in one place, completely alone. Solace kind of a thing. Which people are making mockery of these kind of things. That now you're going into self isolation. You should find peace within self. You should enlighten yourself. I mean, these are. I mean, you have created a panic, and then you're saying up to a person that you find peace. It's not possible. Here what we have to do, we have to continue that chain of communication. In my last post, if you would have noticed, I mentioned that communication is very important. Do not cut off the communication from the person.
Mm.
Even if the person has COVID-19, has this virus, or has symptoms of it, and you are going into self isolation, that communication has to be there. Obviously we cannot go close to that person, but definitely we can communicate through chats, we can communicate through some motivational posts, we can communicate through any other medium like books or something like that. But never let the person feel totally aloof in this kind of a thing.
Yeah, humans are social animals, social creatures, and they need that sort of communication. And especially in this context where it's so sudden. People are so connected. We're all buzzing
Yeah.
around, and then next minute we're withdrawn from society. It's not a spiritual experience, as you said. It's compounded by fear. So it's a fear-based experience, and you want to
Yeah.
minimize some of that fear, that anxiety, and the stress. So
Yeah.
yeah, I totally understand where you're going at that. 14 days is a long time. For
Yes, yes.
yeah,
And tomorrow in India, it is like a curfew. I mean, you are not allowed to go outside the home tomorrow. So it will
tomorrow.
be like a 24 hours curfew to monitor the situation, how things are happening here. Let's see how it works out. But honestly, according to my opinion and some of my sources, I have spoken to some, it will take a lot of time for this thing to eradicate, because it's a virus, and
Yes,
it's not a bacteria that it goes off.
yes, and we
So
pray for India. In a way, that India will cope with this and come through
oh,
bigger and better
definitely.
and stronger on the other side. I know that India has some problems, but I love India. I'm a big fan of India. On record, going back a long, long way. As I told another lady who came on here, we were talking about TAFs. I actually wanted to move to Calcutta to do this show from Calcutta, or
Oh,
now Calcutta. I don't know how to say it properly. I'm not Indian, but I actually wanted
Kolkata.
to come out there and do this show from there. Because yeah, I'm a big fan of India, and so I really hope that India pulls together, and it wouldn't be the first time. India is very, very strong at pulling
Oh, definitely.
together. You know,
People will pull back, but what I feel, being an Indian also. I mean, this thing is in my head also. Um, many of us, many of us, are taking this social curfew as a social holiday. It's not a holiday. People are not understanding. Some of them, they think that they will go out and they will chill, but it's not a chilling time. It's a very panic situation which has been created. Every minute things are increasing and complicating and getting complex. So even in our own homes, we are tend to now maintaining that little bit of distance, just to see that things should not float, because you do not know how things are coming in, coming out. Because people have this attitude here that this will not happen to me, I am safe. So we have to cater to this kind of a mindset, because this kind of mindset can lead to problems.
Yeah, yeah, and it's going to be a bit harder with the education factor. You know, the fact that there's poor people and they would want to go and work, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
not a fun time. It's not a social
No, no.
holiday, and we had the same problem here in Australia. You know, there was images shot around the world of the beaches that were full when they mandated that people should stay home and work, and everyone went to the beach, and they all clobbed up on the beach. And
Yeah.
you know, this is not what we're supposed to be doing at this point in time. You know, if people don't take this seriously, you know, you can cause deaths of other people, and it compounds, and that's the big problem, and that's what we want to try and avoid. How do we deal with this? Friends, families, and even neighbors play an important role in keeping us calm. What can our friends, family, and neighbors do to help us
So
through
what
these times of
happens?
struggle?
So what I have observed till the time this virus is going around, that um, obviously there is panic, so we need not to talk about it. So it is actually affecting our mental health. Our stress levels are going up, obviously, because there is a lot of uncertainty which is surrounding around this, that what is going to happen next. So that fear of what is going to happen next is actually causing a lot of stress to us today. That is complicating, and that is getting complex day by day, because tomorrow new mandate comes, third day a new mandate comes, and when you start seeing these kind of news floating in and out, even on social media or television, more than positive news you will see negative news only, that
Yes.
this many people have died, and this is what is happening around the world. But we are not focusing on the positive aspect of it, that we as a world together, we are locked down today. The entire planet is shut. Nobody has any freedom to move anywhere. We have to all work together, like you see in Italy. What is happening in Italy? I see those people coming out of the balcony, they are singing, they're clapping, they are dancing. So that's the kind of solidarity we need right now, rather than just floating on useless information that these many people are dying. Obviously they will die. We need to focus on it also, and we need to take measures. But we should not only focus on this information. We should focus on what we should do right now as individuals, how as we, every individual trains the other individual, that what other do's and what other don'ts. Italy has the major the maximum number of deaths which are happening in a day. So imagine those people, how they are coping up. These people are not in that loop. I mean, not any other country is in that loop right now. But so this kind of uncertainty which is now floating of what should be done, what should not be done, is very important. Secondly, when I talk about the channel of communication, so there was a case which I was listening to on FM the other day. So this person was 14 days alone for the treatment, etc., etc. I don't know. So when he was discharged, he was in the he came back home. So even at home, he was told to be isolated for a while, so that we see the symptoms if they are not relapsing. So he said that neighbors and friends and everything, they were so helpful for me to cope up with this isolation, because you're sitting in bloody one room for 14 days. We as individuals, when we sit at one place, we get irritated, you know, and we need to go out for we say we need to go out for a drive. That person had to be alone. So he said that a lot of his friends actually uh, gave him books. I mean, I don't know what process they had, but they texted him certain scriptures to read. They had phone calls. He was talking like motivational kind of things. So all those kind of things were, that channel of communication was maintained. So so that he's not aloof. So this kind of a communication is very important when I talk about the friends and neighbors. Obviously, everybody is getting affected with that one person also psychologically, because those people are also human beings. So when one person is affected, the other family also gets affected indirectly. So psychologically, everybody is traumatized.
Yeah.
So this is what we should focus on. Still, that more than negative information, we should focus on positive ones right now. And hope is the biggest factor which every individual has to have in this phase of human juncture in human history.
Wow, yeah, hope is a really big one. And I want to just concentrate quickly on what you've been talking about here in terms of sharing information. And, bad information or negative news, clickbait from random websites goes viral because people want to share negative news. But this is not the time nor the place to be sharing random websites that have negative
and
fake
honestly,
news.
when we also talk about mental health, we always tell people, do not start googling symptoms. This is not the time to google out information. This is the time to just go and see the real information which is prevailing. WHO has provided with the helpline number. WHO has given all the mandates. What are the symptoms? Even in India, for example, I will say the main hospitals, the government's one, they have given us the symptoms. The doctors are saying that do not get panicked too much. If you have cold, cough, sneeze, wait for certain duration of time. Then you come under consultancy. Do not just rush into the hospitals because the hospitals are flooded right now,
Yeah.
and every second person is panicked.
Yeah.
So that's the thing which is actually getting a lot of problem. This panic.
Yeah, and that's the real problem when everyone panics at once. We've seen it in the supermarkets. People go rush on food, but that's what they do in the medical market is they rush on hospitals, and then the lines blow up. And if there's one infected person in that waiting room, they're all going to get infected. So your panic of your symptom you might have been healthy. Now you're sitting waiting around in a waiting room, and now you have the coronavirus. So your panic and your irrationality actually led you to getting the disease. And that's the big problem. So. But I liked what you were saying before about we have to have hope, and I think this is the big time when the leaders of these governments are really going to shine. This show will really show the character of these leaders, who will inspire hope and who will destroy their country. Because this is where we stand now. What countries will survive and what countries will be destroyed, and the leader that can provide the most hope, is going to come out on top. Because he's going to support the mental welfare
more than also the government and the leaders. I think it's the individual part which we have to play here, helping people who are not that much educated or that much not aware. Rather than just creating a panic, that just go inside, something will happen to you. This is not the time to bluffing around with these viral stupid WhatsApp messages and forwards. This is not the right time for all these things. The world is totally locked down. I see that pictures which people are sending, that there is a image of globe, and the entire throughout the globe it's written it closed. So it's even funny, but it's even logical.
Yeah, I saw on the Economist this morning. It was just outside my doorstep, and it was just a picture of the world, and it had a sign that said closed.
Yeah.
The world's shut right now. If you and I've seen some funny memes going around, some of these jokes, and it's the aliens that are saying, "Oh, we can't invade today. They're shut." So you can find humor in this sort of stuff. It's true, but you're right. So individuals can take care of ourselves with this news of COVID-19. Let's take into account the people who might be going through mental health issues like anxiety or severe stress, because this is something that I worried about, and you can expand on this, is that a lot of the mental health issues that were underlying when the economy is strong, they can be suppressed with certain tactics. But when the stress level goes up and the systems start reorientating their resources towards, for example, they're all reorientating their resources towards this COVID-19, people with mental health issues are getting forgotten about. They're getting forgotten, and they don't have quite the access of care and compassion. And that's why people who know people who are depressed or anxious or have stress syndromes or need to really take effective care, because at this point in time they're not going to get the care that they're used to from the governments. Do you want to expand on that?
So what happens, generally people who are suffering from mental health issues, let's say depression, anxiety, stress, PTSD, OCD, all those kind of things, now they are actually going through some kind of negative thoughts already, due to which they have these kind of problems. Now you see a person, for example, going through anxiety or a panic. let's say anxiety, that person already has an illogical fear or already has an apprehension that something negative is going to happen. Now, this kind of an information which is so free floating and it's all negative, imagine that anxiety is going to be provoked and it's going
Yes.
to go up. Even with depression, let's say with OCD, a person who is already obsessed and have compulsive acts, now he will start washing in his hands, for example, even more than the times he was washing before. So all these informations are getting provoked, and we are not forgetting, but we are actually right now not concerned that the people who are actually going through these mental health issues will have more chances of relapses, more chances of not to recover from these kind of things, because their cognitions are already malfunctioned. Their thinking pattern is already illogical, irrational. So this more information will keep on flowing in, and their problems will getting provoked. So we need to take care and take into account these kind of people also.
This is really important because we're talking about people's lives here. If people don't support each other, this can lead to deaths and suicides. So not only COVID-19 can take out people who have the disease, but
Yeah.
also, in effect, take out people through who take their own lives because of the stress or the compounding fact that they don't get adequate mental health care from the government or from their families. What do you say to that?
Uh, so what happens when these people are actually facing these issues and all? Obviously, we need to take care of them as an individual part. We need to regulate the kind of information which is even getting floated to these people, because when they come home or when these people are home or are they on medications, the chances of getting relapses are a lot because of these kind of information. So we need to regulate this kind of information, that what kind of information floats to these kind of people. Um, but still, honestly, these are one kind of people. But today, the normal individual who does not have any mental health issue has a chance of getting a lot of mental health issues, because of
Okay. Yes.
the kind of information which is now in the market. We as individual are getting stressed, and imagine that if this stress level goes up in another 14-15 days, people who have a tendency to uh, adapt to malfunctioning kind of a thinking system, or people who have a tendency or who have a high rates of getting stress or anxiety or depression, imagine what is going to happen to those kind of people. I
Yes.
mean, 14 days before you were something else, and 14 days after you were something else.
And this is a really good point because I've been thinking about this in the context of the United States, where a lot of people are on big pharmaceutical drugs and stuff, and that might even expand now, especially. Well, we can talk about the economic stuff in a bit, but what about? I'll put that on hold for a sec. What about people with anxiety? What about anxiety? Is anxiety going to grow now because of all this compounding stress?
See, anxiety is just a fear of apprehension when your goal is not achieved, I would say. So the people who are actually going through anxiety disorders, when this kind of an anxiety becomes harmful for your own self and for the other person, so this kind of an anxiety disorder gets provoked by these kind of informations. All the negative things starts happening, or the negative things person starts thinking that it is going to happen to him. So the anxiety increases. As an individual, you, me, or other people, we have a threshold to cope up with anxiety. But these kind of people have lost their thresholds to cope with anxiety, and that is why when they land up to disorders. So anxiety, when it becomes a disorder, it becomes dysfunctional, it becomes dangerous, and the person becomes distressed
Yes.
completely. So when this kind of information in the market floats through, and all negative information, people are dying, people are getting solitary, so isolated. So this kind of information provokes that kind of an anxiety. It augments that kind of a tendency that the person is not able to control.
What about people with those with OCD, obsessive
OCD, I
compulsive,
just told you, obviously, people who are going through with the obsessive
and
compulsive
the
problems.
PTSD?
PTSD is basically a stress disorder. It's post-traumatic stress disorder. It's also a part of anxiety only. So people, who already have, let's say, issues, or who already have had these kind of issues. they encounter something in the nightmares, or they have seen somebody dying, or people who are coming from war areas, etc. So they actually, we see that these kind of people have PTSDs. So when this kind of information also floats in, imagine the kind of anxiety which is going to grow up. So anxiety, PTSD, OCD, they're all in one line, but obviously they have different symptoms.
So, what's some mental health strategies that we can take on? Because you're saying that uncertainty is one of these big factors in this mental health, and that's where we are right now. The uncertainty is a big mental health factor, and you can see that across the markets in the world are crashing on on uncertainty. You can see the security dilemmas happening because of uncertainty. You can see a lot of different geopolitical uncertainty, but also on the home front, on the mental health front, uncertainty. What type of precautions can we take to what can we do to help and assist each
Right now,
other?
according to me, right now, just be careful of the information you are going through. Be very logical with the kind of information you read. um, do the do's and don'ts and follow that manuscript which is being prescribed by your government, or the WHO, for example. And just do not lose your willpower and hope. This will pass, and we need to, not become scavengers of our own lives.
Where's the
Because
line? Where's the line? Where should we join the line between watching the news, for example? Because if people turn on the news, it's just full on. It's just, it's just fear, right? So where's the
honestly,
line that we should be informed by the news and protect our mental health?
you cannot draw a line between these kind of things, because anyways people are going to watch the news, and they are all going to be flooded with all the information, the same kind of information which is being floating. It's only the numbers which are increasing, or in some places they are going down, and in some places they are saying that it's controlled. But it's only the play of numbers, but the information is all same. Every country is just showing out the numbers. So the methodology is the same right now. Today, also, I was reading that they were telling that the virus can hold up to 3 hours in the air, 4 hours on the surface, 24 hours on the plastic, etc., etc. I don't know. I could not understand, but we need to be sensitized, and we need to take care of ourselves. Keep a sanitizer with you. That's what people are saying, and that's also, we have also started doing it in our homes and our offices. That we have given sanitizers to everybody to at least, you know, keep themselves safe. So some people are saying that drink hot water, drink green tea, and etc. Useless, baseless informations. So we should not go with these kind of informations. Our immune system is very critical in fighting against COVID-19, because and your immune system is going to be strong when you are strong. That's what I feel. So
Yeah.
willpower, hope is very important as of now.
Yes, I agree. And humans have a tendency to to think negative, especially in the case of this
Yeah.
virus. What should we be doing when we're thinking about the impacts on our lives in terms of shutdowns, the news, and other things? What this negative news has swept across the world. What should we do about that?
So human beings generally have a tendency, or we are conditioned to think negative than positive. You agree with that? So any information which comes up, we first think the negative impacts of it, rather than thinking what is the positive of it. So now, what is happening because of this lockdown and everything, the shutdown of the stores and everything, people have started stocking food and everything, and even medicines for that case, which I feel is not right. I mean, this too shall pass, but obviously you cannot stock in uh, food for 30 days, 40 days at a stretch. When I was speaking to one of my relatives, he said that the rice is finished in the market. I cannot get a packet of rice. And imagine a small thing like rice, he's not able to get.
Wow.
So, so this panic will get over, and we should just tell people that just relax, sit at home, uh, do Netflix and chill. It's okay. You have got time. Spend time with your family. Spend time with your kids, which people do not get, rather than thinking of all the negative crap which is going to happen. And whatever rumors are going around, in this COVID-19 that it's a bioweapon or it was created to, wipe off the human race. Please do not go with this kind of informations.
Mm.
You just protect yourself
Mm.
and your family and your near and dear ones who you can tell to be, safe.
Yeah.
No, don't go keep on hoarding stuff, as if the world is going to end. It's not.
Yeah.
So things will pass.
Yeah.
A bright sunny day will come.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the psychology, it's about the psychology of uncertainty, and it causes major anxiety and fear in people being illogical. But it's kind of interesting that you can't even get rice in India. I never thought I'd see the day. That's
No, no, he must
strange.
have he must have he must have gone to like 5, 10 grocery stores, he said. And he said that I cannot find rice because people have stocked it. They are not keep I mean, people have started buying it so much that they're stocking out rations at home. I
Yeah.
mean, because we do not know till when the lockdown is going to happen.
Yeah.
Like in India, tomorrow is a curfew, and then for the next 3 days, everything is shut. Market, groceries, everything is shut. And if things are not controlled, it will go on till April.
Yeah, and what are people going to do? This has been a really fascinating talk. Mental health is extremely important, and I want to talk about it more and more and more because I think this is I've called this the time of great reflection. In
Yeah.
the world, that's what I'm coining this as. When the world stops and it really has to think about what it was doing. On many fronts. And I just hope that people heed your advice, heed your words, and and we can reduce the amount of anxiety, fear, stress, and encourage
Just
things
now,
like hope,
I would
communication.
urge people right now to take care of yourself. Do not lose your mental sanity. It's very important for you to be sane in this kind of an atmosphere. It's tough, but it's doable. Spend time with yourself, enlighten yourself. It's actually true. Have some self-awareness sessions at home. It's very important for a person. I mean, this can be taken as a positive reason that people are trying to now find time for themselves in this fast
Professor,
moving world.
what do you say about self-reflection and spirituality, or those related ideas? Do you think this is a time for people to?
Of course, yes. Of course, yes. I mean, seriously, this is a very good time when we should actually now start reflecting on why are we here on this earth as human beings. I mean, we have a duty to fulfill on earth. I was reading this book, and it's a very nice book, Laws of the Spirit World. Now, it says that, every human being, when he's on earth, it's like a school, and we have a duty to fulfill. Now, in this fast changing and evolving world, which is so technologically driven, we have lost ourselves completely. No, even if you ask one person to tell you 10 lines about themselves, they will not be able to tell you because they do not know who they are.
Yeah.
That self reflection is not there. So now, when you have time, forget about what is happening. It will happen and it will change also. You have time for yourself. That is very important. I'm seeing the positive side of it still.
Yes.
How
Yes.
I'm going to improve relations, how I'm going to improve my work, how I'm going to improve myself as a human being.
Yes.
It's a very good time for you to think about yourself.
Yes, and this is this is definitely what I've been doing. And I appreciate your positive spin on this, and I think they're the same. I'm calling it the great time of reflection because it's a moment when the world is frozen, and we all know that how it could play out, but it's all unknown. There's no point in stressing
Yeah,
about
so
it.
there is no reason to dwell on the uncertainty. There is no reason to have panic about that uncertainty. What you're certain
Deal
about
with
today
it.
is
Deal with the
yourself.
crisis at hand, and encourage and love each other, and give each other
Yeah.
hope, and try and reduce the amount of stress, fear, and anxiety in your life, and use some of the tools and tactics that you've laid out here. And if
Yep.
we all do that, we can all pull through this much better than if people allow bad information to permeate themselves and become more stressed and more anxious, and allow the social disruption to increase, because that will just compound the issue in a negative way, right?
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
it's a good time of reflection. Take care, and people can be a lot better than themselves what they were 14 days ago.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, if have you got anything else to say, sir? Because this has been a fascinating.
No, just thank you, Steve, for taking out this time. It's important that we reach out to masses through this, and a positive spin is very important in this negative situation which has been created. And I'm very thankful to everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree, and thank you very much, Professor, for coming on and talking about this. I agree. I'm calling it the great time of reflection. You
Yeah,
know, and you be safe, and you be well and happy,
you too.
and I'm going to take these strategies that you've laid out here and implement them in my own life, and I'm going to take them to the people in my life and tell them to implement these as well, because these are sound strategies for mental health. To secure our mental health, and that is very important, because if you can work through that, it's better for your communities, it's better for your country, it's better for yourself, it's better for social stability, and it's better when we come out on the other side of this, because there's a bright, happy future ahead of us, and I want everybody I can to be a part of that bright, happy future. So, I look
Yes.
forward to that, and I look forward to seeing you in that bright, happy future, sir.
Oh,
So,
definitely. Same to
thank
you.
you for telling me and the audience and how to adopt
Thank
some
you.
strategies so we can go through to the other side and be part of that bright, happy future on the other side.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you
Thank you.
very much, Professor. I will. That will be it for this episode of
Yep.
Detonation, where we are busy
Thank you.
putting death
Bye bye.
out of business. I'm going to thank Chairman Gennady Stolarov II, the United States Transhumanist Party, David Shoemaker, superfan Mike DeVerde. Thanks always, Mike DeVerde. For humanity projects. The future is in your hands, and a growing list of other people who are supporting this show on small donations to try and keep it running through this time of great challenge. So thank you very much to all of you out
Thank
there
you.
as well. Thank you very much, sir, and I will talk to you very soon. And thanks for all these
Okay.
strategy tips.
Bye, Steve.
Thank you. That's Detonation, where we are busy putting death out of business.